this is Seth from Travelsmith Co. Welcome to another episode. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Flex method. And so this is really just a general planning tool that I like to encourage people to use. And so there's three parts to this. There's really three parts to most travel as far as logistic goes, what it's going to cost you, and then also what you want. There's three aspects that are really important to keep in mind whenever you are traveling. And so first is the location. So location is important. If you don't have a location, you're not going to go anywhere. So that's pretty important is location. The second aspect, or the second leg of the three-legged stool, if you want to consider it that, of the Flex method, is the time. We all have to pick a time to go, whether it's now, whether it's 6 months from now, a year from now, whatever it is, we need a time. So we need a location and we need a time. And then, of course, unfortunately, the last thing that we all need to be able to travel is money. And so those are the three big aspects, the three legs of the stool that hold this whole Flex method together is location and the time or the date and money. And so what I would propose to you guys and what I would suggest is that travel is much more attainable than most people would think, especially if you're intentional about wanting it. But it is especially attainable if at least one of those three pillars, one of those three legs of the stool, you are flexible with. If you are either flexible about your location, or you're flexible about your time, or you're flexible about your money. And so, for example, if you really want to go to Madrid and you really want to go tomorrow, if you are flexible with your budget, you can make that happen. It's not going to be the cheapest it's ever been, but if you really want to go to Madrid tomorrow, you can make that work if you have flexibility with your money, if you have flexible budget. On the other hand, if you really want to go to Madrid, but you don't really care when you want to do it, but you do have a pretty limited budget, well, you can't do it for free, but you can make it much more available if your scheduling is flexible. If you want to go for a week, but you are flexible whatever week of the year it is, you can save potentially hundreds or thousands of dollars based on being flexible with your time. Alternatively, some people say, well, I have to travel this week and I have this much money, but I don't really care where I go. I just want to go somewhere interesting. I want to go somewhere new. Or maybe, it's somewhere new or somewhere I've heard about. Just throw me some ideas. If I was told by somebody, hey, a month from now, I've got a week off, I've got a $1,500 budget, where could I go? I mean, you could do a lot of research and find quite a few options if you're flexible on where you want to go. And so really there's just this idea of, in the Flex method, you have your location, you have the time, and you have the money. If you're flexible in at least one of those, you can usually make a trip work. Like I said before, it does take money and it does take time to do this. You have to be able to make time to travel. You have to be able to save to travel. You have to, maybe depending on your life and your budgeting, normally you might have to be a little more frugal in what you choose to spend your frivolous money on, to save up enough money to be able to do that. But if you're intentional with it, it is feasible, it is possible. And usually it is much more attainable than most people think. And also with this, I would just remind people to think through what I have mentioned before, and you'll probably hear me mention again if you become a regular listener or watcher, of thinking of cash versus convenience. And so with that, if you have a tight budget, you can make things work if you are willing to go someplace and stay in a spot that is a cheaper location, but is not as nice. It doesn't have as many amenities, or maybe the location's not quite as good. Maybe it's a 30-minute walk from the old town. Or maybe, you stay in a spot that has a kitchen and you cook most of your own food and go to grocery stores and cook food that way. You can make things work through that way. Or maybe, if you're more flexible on days, but you really have someplace you want to go and you have an okay budget, but you're flexible on when it's going to be. You can do the research to look up and see, hey, I can put a little more effort in to see when is a good time to visit this, when is a time that is not the peak tourist season, where there is more options available, and save some money. You lose a little bit of convenience because you have to do a little more work, but you're able to save a little bit of money. Same way with the location. If you just don't care where the location is, you can look and see alternative locations and see what fits your budget and what is a good option for the time that you want to travel. But so whenever you are planning a trip, the two really important things I would urge you to keep in mind, one, cash versus convenience. The more research and the more looking into it you do, and very often what you are willing to sacrifice in terms of convenience when you're on the ground there will give you more cash to be able to take the trip, or give you more cash to splurge in other areas. So the cash versus convenience is one concept to keep in mind, but also, especially while planning a trip and thinking about what you want to do, keeping in mind the flex method of where do I want to go, when do I want to go there, and what is my budget. And if you can be flexible on at least one of those, you can almost always figure out a way to make a trip work. And thank you guys for watching and listening. This is Seth from Travel Smith Co. And look forward to seeing you next time.